Well, thank you for coming along this afternoon for this, sort of one of the later sessions. As you can see, the title of this is about using Google Sites to support teachers in multiple locations. I'm from Sheffield University and we have a very, very large summer programme. We have about 1,000 pre-sessional students that are mainly going in to do master's programmes or even PhDs, and about 500 what we call Study English Plus Options, or SEPO is our little acronym for those. And they are kind of come just for general English, and some of those are roll on, roll off. So they come for 3 weeks and then they leave. And so generally, I'm going to be focusing in some ways mainly on the pre-sessionals, but also this does affect everything we do in the summer school. And based on experience from previous years, I mean, when I took my job, my main brief was to improve ISS communication. And one of the problems we'd had before, well, not before, but we have every year, is we have such a large number of temporary staff. We have about 80 teachers in the ELTC itself, but we have an additional 50 that come in. And obviously, it's a very intensive course for the teachers. We do give them 1 week of induction, but where to find things after that can be very, very problematic for them. We have as well, including the ELTC, 11 teaching locations based around the campus. We operate on campus out of 4 sort of satellite staff rooms, but as you can see, if there are 10 locations, only 4 satellite staff rooms, that means that some of the teachers are not teaching in buildings where there is a staff room, which means, again, they've got to try and find that staff room, find the materials, find what they need before going to their class. In the past, obviously, like most courses, there's a lot of information to get out to the staff. This has led to a sort of email over bombing in the past, where teachers have walked in the morning and seen about 20 different emails. They don't know which ones are important, which ones should they delete. Sometimes buried within those emails is something very important. And in previous years, what I used to do is do a sort of summary of the important emails at the end of the week, saying, don't delete this one because this is what's come out this week. So this was a problem, because also it meant that teachers had to log on university computer into their email system to be able to get their email. One other thing we found is that we have a 10-week programme, a 6-week and a 4-week. Now, teachers could be involved in any one of these 3 programmes. Some of them often come from abroad. They might have other plans as well as working for the university, such as seeing friends or family. And so in previous years, people have turned around to me and said, are we doing anything 3 weeks on Friday? And I'd say, why? Oh, well, I want to buy a train ticket to go down to Brighton, and if we've got anything planned, obviously I can't get one. And so I'd have to try and check with the different managers and say, is there any training happening? And sometimes there would be, sometimes there wouldn't. But what we thought would be better is have all these so that teachers can see them from the beginning. And so they could actually easily find out when they should be in ELTC or at the university, or when they were free. Another problem was the infamous university shared drive. Obviously, it was not accessible from non-university computers. Again, we had other issues in that sometimes, again, especially temporary staff, tended to delete things or drag them onto their desktop, and so they suddenly disappeared. And so we'd have to re-upload them again. And another thing is we use the shared drive around the year, and we thought, why do we really want them poking around in there? Because it's not really actually necessary for them. Another element, as I mentioned before, we had the 4 satellite staff rooms, and this is where paper lesson records were kept. Now, as I said before, teachers weren't always teaching in these buildings, which would mean they might just leave class at the end of their session and not even go anywhere near that staff room. So they wouldn't actually complete them, and I'd say a cover teacher would come in to try and find out what they were supposed to do. If they could find the folder, it might well be blank, and it was, well, that doesn't help either. So with this, we decided to go online and turn them to Google Documents through this site, so they could always be checked and they were always available. Another thing we had, again, with so many teachers in so many locations, how do you feed back on problems? We have a number of ADOSs on the programme. Last count, I think, was 8. But again, you might not see one of these. And again, is it an email? or you just tell somebody informally. And so there were quite a lot of issues here. And finally, there was too much photocopying materials. The breaks were basically times when people just were tied to the photocopier or before class. We solved this in a number of ways. One of them was by producing our in-house exam preparation booklet, and also we used the course book, Oxford EAP. So what was our solution? Well, it was a one-stop website where everything was available. Everything the teachers needed to find was actually on there. Also, what this meant was all course news, all course information, all the key dates were on there straight away, so they could find those. All course and assessment materials, so anything they wanted to find was also online. So as I said, although we used the Oxford EAP, we also made interactive whiteboard versions of this so it could be shown on the screen. This wasn't breaking copyright because we buy over 1,000 of these books, and it was only to replace a teacher holding a book up and saying, look at this bit. Instead, they could put it on here because we have throughout the university either the interactive whiteboard or the symposium software, so we could actually use this. All training materials as well. Again, I mentioned that we had an induction course, but some teachers would start later than the induction course, and therefore they couldn't come for the full week. So everything was there, including the video of me doing an induction session for existing teachers. And all tech guides, and again, I'm going to show you something later on that, but such as Edmodo or Turnitin and our own Mole. And again, as I mentioned earlier, all lesson records are on there. So the key thing about this was no university computer or login was required. This is because we decided to use a Google site. We had the option of making it password protected, but we decided to use a closed link whereby the teachers that received the link could access the site, but no, it wasn't a public site. You could search for it, you would never find it. And this meant that we had 24/7 multiple device access. So it worked on a smartphone, a tablet, laptop, you name it, it worked on every device. And thinking about the environment, I mean, it was much more of a green proposal that we had because we were cutting down on photocopying, cutting down paper lesson records, and so we felt that actually this was a better way to go. I'm going to show you the website now. Please forgive me because I've got to keep up with the video because rather than trying to go live, I've recorded some screen captures of the video. So I'll try to talk you through what it actually looks like because obviously I can tell you this, but until we see it, we wouldn't really know. So this is what the site looked like. We made the header and the buttons ourselves, but this was updated daily, and this would be what would in the past have been email. This was actually captured from the last time we updated it. You can see here we've got the main elements of the course, but over here on the right was, as I mentioned, the element of the key dates, and these are scrolled. This is a live calendar, and so that's why it's showing things that are current. And we had quick links here at the bottom. As I said, we have the different elements, and if we go into the pre-sessional, you can see here we've got, again, quick links to the syllabus for different teachers. Here they could find interactive whiteboard versions, and here it was just a PDF version of a teacher's book so that teachers could look at it away from it. Lesson records, all the different areas of the course which teachers might have questions about were all here, very clearly marked so that they knew where to go. Taking a look at the lesson records, we have the 3 different courses, and again, these were broken to morning and afternoon. And to give you an example, you can see the number of buildings we have, but this is one example of it, and you can see it's completed with the initials of the teacher and everything's clear. This was policed by myself and the ADOSs. Going into teacher information, we had welfare information, but we also had the online teacher handbook. And again, this was a Google Doc that we could therefore update. Teachers could access this. If you take a look, say, at the teaching locations, you'll notice here that we have, again, like I say, 10 round the campus. And so the whole idea of this was it's much easier for the teachers to get all the information they needed to get just by visiting here. Feedback was done in a way, again, a live document whereby these were their problems and we tried to answer them on the right. usually within a day or two. This proved very popular with teachers. As I said, we had extra things such as a teacher induction video as well, and so that teachers could actually access any time. Going into the USET, this was a USET book we produced. We had lots of other materials such as a mock exam there, but if we went into the USET book, for example, it's exactly the same as a student book. They had all the different sections here, and these were IWB versions and PDFs, so they could actually show those. Moving down here into the social program, again, so the teachers could find out what was happening, and then into the tech guides. And if we take a look here, we've got Mole Edmodo, but the one we're going to look at is Turnitin. And here, teachers could click on a link to this. This had lots of how-tos, but then if they clicked on here, they could watch a video of our director of TEL talking them through how to use Turnitin. So if they missed a session, they could then watch this, and then they could get back to us if they had any other questions about it. So essentially that's what the, obviously I can't show you everything on the website, it just goes on too long, but that's a brief overview, the kind of things that we had up there. So it's all very nice to say we had this website, but of course, did anyone use it? And that was the key thing. And actually, one of the great things about it is during the 10 weeks, we had 72,000 page views, which kind of looked like this. These are the weekends. This is obviously Monday. And you can see how things tended to be very high on Monday, gradually go down on Wednesday, peak a bit on Thursday, but they still remained there over the weekend. That was the interesting thing, that people actually were still viewing it at the weekend. And so to find out, well, okay, how did teachers use it? What did they use it for? We put together a questionnaire, and in the questionnaire we got various results, one of which, and you'll notice first of all that these add up to more than 100%. The reason for that is teachers were allowed to actually answer, well, tick each of these devices they use. Because the first thing was, well, okay, we expected staff room computers to be very high, and also classroom, because again, everything was online, so they were going to use it during the classes. But the interesting thing is we had, 17% of people using smartphones, another 9% of people using tablet computers, not what we might say normal devices. So that was, again, over 20% of people using that. But again, over 50% using their own personal laptops, which meant they liked the fact they didn't have to use the university equipment. Another element is, when did you access it? And again, we might expect before morning class, and we might expect during class breaks. But the interesting thing for me was actually these at the bottom. In the evening from home, 60%, and at weekends, 56% of respondents said that. So they were actually using it at home, not in the university, in their free time. Moving on to how was the experience? Well, I'm happy to say that over 90% were either very or generally positive. Nobody went to the negative, and a few were sort of on the fence and saying, oh, it was okay, I suppose. And do we think it was better than emails? Again, 81% of people thought yes. Some people thought no, and they were generally existing members of staff that had got into the culture of email and sort of said, well, I prefer emails. And the ones that I think were on the don't know were returning teachers that perhaps didn't work with us full time. Again, better than the shared drive? Well, 92% thought it was better to have everything on here. I think, again, here, the two people that said they don't know what it is, obviously they were new teachers and had no, and the good thing in one way is they didn't know what it was because they didn't need to know what it was. And that was a key element for us. And so lesson records was an overwhelming success, and they have been rolled over. We have rolled over the portal round year, but the thing that everybody likes is the fact that not only can they fill in the records in class, they can fill them in at home. And if they've been told they've got a cover class the following day, they can just go to the lesson records and have a look what's being covered, which might be different for what they're told to do. So again, this has proved very successful. User feedback, well, I always think, well, although teachers filled in those things, we gave them the opportunity to actually write things and say what they felt. And one thing here, as you can see, what was it? Much more organised, keep the bulletins and materials always accessible, easily accessible from work or home. And again, the idea of being able to use it outside the university. This one was quite nice from one of the teachers to say that they like to read it on the way into work on the bus on their iPhone, which was, I suppose it's something else to do than read the metro. My favourite one was was this guy who said, all right, he preferred for this constantly checking emails or running around looking at the whiteboards, because we did have the whiteboards in each staff room as well. The shared drive is hopeless, okay, unless you're prepared to stay at work forever. I know what he means, because it is a bit of a labyrinth. And he could access it even in London. So we are reducing the north-south divide, obviously, because he was very happy that he could be in London at the weekend. He still knew what was going on. And this was the feedback that we got from this. And obviously we got much more feedback, but I thought these were the most interesting. And the development, well, as I said, we've used it round year now. For the one that we're planning at the moment, although this might change if we get there, we've had a few different changes. Okay, we've now got a search box, so you can search for things on the site. The useful links just drop down here. We still have the important dates. We've kind of replaced which were manually written last year, into a bulletin board, so that we can now post directly. And another element is we've now introduced this left pane navigation bar, so teachers can find it easier to find things. As I say, that's where we are at the moment. We're also, as well as, we're not promoting Google. We used Google purely for one simple reason. Everything was there already, and within the limited time frame that we had, it only took us a few weeks to set this up. In fact, I started it around about this time last year, and we'd finished it within 3 weeks, essentially. We, as a university, obviously, we were keeping options open. We're also looking at WordPress as another viable option. That's all I have to say about it. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'd be very happy to take them.
Technically, was it simple? Did you have an IT background, or was it just...
Not really, I mean...
You go and do it and you can set it up, you follow instructions?
It's very, very simple to set it up. I mean, I'm not a technophobe, but I wouldn't class myself as someone like our director of TEL. The thing I liked about it was simple. You could go there to Google Sites, you could watch a video how to set up Google Sites, and then from there you can just choose a template that appealed to you, and then you can just go through and create as many pages as you want. Regarding different pages that you saw up there, we included other people so they could upload elements to that and edit those pages, so it wasn't just all me doing that. So yeah, no, and that was a key thing. It was ease. I thought two things: A, it has to be easy for me, and secondly, it has to be easy for teachers to be able to access. Because I think one of the problems is, I think sometimes with certainly some people in tech, they like to say, "Here's some tech, and we're going to use it, whether you like it or not." And I think that was the thing. I think initially people thought, "Do we have to use this?" But then when they looked at it and thought, "Oh, it's simple. Oh, I can see this." We won a lot of people could have been critics actually were very happy. Ironically, at the beginning, the first thing that appealed to all the existing staff was the calendar and the dates. And they said, that is fantastic. Don't care if anything else works, as long as we know what's happening, that'll be enough. And so, yeah.
And if the teachers have queries, they use the feedback section.
Yeah.
And then is there someone like manning the screen
Yeah.
at all times? So
Basically, yeah.
if there's a problem in the classroom,
They could put it up there, and certainly I would look at the feedback form each day, sometimes twice a day, and rather than just here's, because the problem I found is certainly a 10-week course, it's a bit like a roller coaster ride, because so much happens so fast. Problems happen in the first week that when it comes to the final, and we do a Survey Monkey survey at the end of the 10 weeks, but by the time you got to 10, you're just happy you've got there, and you've forgotten what went wrong in week 1 or 2 or 3. And so the whole thing with this, it had to be ongoing. so that teachers could feedback immediately. They came out of their classroom and said something, there's a problem with something with the course, or then they could tell us and we could try to respond immediately.
But if someone had like an emergency in the classroom, not a serious emergency, but I don't know, something they needed to ask you quickly, is that what they would use to do that?
They could use it because they had access to it in the classroom. They had access to it all the time, so they could easily do that, or at break, or they had my direct number. Because again, in the teacher's handbook at the beginning, I didn't go through that, but it had all the mobile numbers of everybody that, so they could contact or message me anytime. Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to?
What about IT failure? The system goes down.
Well, we looked at that and we decided actually that if that went down, the whole university system went down anyway, so it was neither here nor there. We're just back to the book itself. Sorry?
Dogma lesson.
Yeah, I mean, so the thing was, yeah, we did think about that, and this was, you know, one of the big questions, what if it doesn't work? But then we thought, well,
So what backup did you have?
well, as I say, with regards to all the course materials, everything, there were physical copies of all of these that the students and teachers had. Regarding the lesson, luckily, Google never went down. And so occasionally there were times when we couldn't access it, but that was due to our university network. So some people actually found, strangely enough, they could access it on their own personal devices, but not on university network. You know.
And did you, is it part of your university automatic backup? So
This wasn't, because this sort of, although it's part of Sheffield, it wasn't an automatic backup element here. Yeah, but that's why we're looking at other ideas. I say this was the simplest and the easiest. But you know, we're aware that there might be better systems. But what we didn't want it to be was just like the university, a front page. It's more of an intranet for the teachers. So it didn't have to have all the bells and whistles, you know, which our university department will back everything up on. This was, yeah.
But maybe daily print off of anything you wanted to keep, like the sort of issues that arose throughout the course.
Yeah.
Could you imagine a folder with a backup hard copy?
Well, basically we were going for the paperless idea, but I mean the thing was, I mean, you know, it is possible to download those Google documents as a Word and convert them to Word document versions if you wanted to. So what I mean, you could back them up out. And I know what you mean with regards to the element of the cloud. That, you know, cloud computing can, you know, it could all be gone tomorrow. So actually everything was uploaded. I mean, I backed up before we uploaded it, so it could all be retrieval or re-uploaded if anything went wrong. And again, with the Google Doc, occasionally, I know I got a frantic phone call from one of the ADOSs telling me that a teacher just deleted the entire lesson records for a class. But, I mean, it'd all gone, everything, the whole thing. But luckily I could just restore it, so it wasn't an issue, but it could have been an issue. Okay. All right, thank you very much. Okay.